Hello. This video demonstrates how to use the Rockler Perfect Fit Dado Jig with router bits other than the suggested 1/2 inch router bit. In this demonstration, I'll be using a 5/8 inch router bit, but the technique shown will apply to any other size router bit up to 1 3/16 inch to create a dado of up to 2 1/4 inch wide. For demonstration purposes, I've installed a DeWalt DWP611 compact router onto my Rockler Perfect Fit Dado Jig. The Rockler jig doesn't come pre-drilled for compact routers, so I first had to manually drill and attach my DeWalt router. It would be helpful if Rockler would pre-drill their jig to accommodate both full and compact sized routers. Before I show you how to use a non-standard router bit, let's begin by demonstrating how to use the dado jig with the suggested 1/2 inch bit. We'll be making a dado that perfectly fits a piece of 3/4 inch plywood. Because 3/4 inch plywood is actually 23/32 inch thick, we can't simply make a single pass with a 3/4 inch router bit. The resulting dado would be too loose. To make the perfect dado cut to fit 3/4 inch plywood, we'll be making two separate cuts with our 1/2 inch router bit. The first pass will remove a 1/2 inch wide, or 16/32 inch wide cut of wood. The second pass will overlap the first pass, and only remove an additional 7/32 inch of wood, resulting in a dado of 23/32 inch wide. The first step in making our 23/32 inch wide dado is to position the edge of an all-in-one clamp, exactly 3 1/2 inches from where you want your first dado cut. Next, using a set of digital calipers, loosen both set screw knobs on the adjustable side of the dado jig, and position the movable side, so the gap by the yellow measurement tape is exactly 7/32 inch wide at each piece of tape. Finally, tighten the set screw knobs to keep the movable piece in place. Place the fixed side lip of the Rockler Dado Jig in the groove of the all-in-one clamp, and make your first pass, 1/2 inch wide cut, across your piece of wood as shown. To finish the dado cut, lift up the dado jig, turn it around so the movable side lip is set into the all-in-one clamp groove, then make your final cut in the same direction as the first cut, as shown. This completes the example of making a 23/32 inch dado to perfectly fit a piece of 3/4 inch plywood. We'll now look into what must be done to use the Rockler Perfect Fit Dado Jig with a non-1/2 inch router bit. Let's first take a look at the bottom of the Rockler Dado Jig. The space between the edge of the track that fits into the groove of the all-in-one clamp and the edge of a mounted 1/2 inch router bit is exactly 3 1/2 inches. In the picture you can see that a straight edge pushed up against the cutting edge of a 1/2 inch router bit rests exactly at 3 1/2 inches from the clamp end of the jig. In the next example, I'll be making a dado that is exactly 1 inch wide. Instead of making a smaller dado cut needed by plywood, our 1 inch dado is for some dimensionally stable 1 inch MDF. This example will use a 5/8 inch router bit, instead of the standard 1/2 inch router bit that's normally called for with the Rockler Perfect Fit Dado Jig. In this photo, I've removed the 1/2 inch router bit, and replaced it with a 5/8 inch bit. Placing a straight edge against the cutting edge of the bit, shows the cutting edge is no longer exactly 3 1/2 inches from the fixed edge of the dado jig. Instead, the extra width of the bit, places the router bit's cutting edge, 3 7/16 inch from the fixed edge of the dado jig. In this photo, you can see that a 1/2 inch router bit is the same as 8/16 inch wide. Likewise, a 5/8 inch router bit is 10/16 inch wide. In this view, you can see that the wider 5/8 router bit would make a cut that's 1/16 inch wider on either side of a 1/2 inch wide cut if the router was positioned at the same 3 1/2 inch distance from the all-in-one guide rail. With what we now know about using a larger router bit in the Rockler Perfect Fit Dado Jig to make a perfect 1 inch wide dado cut, the first thing we must do is to move our all-in-one guide to be 3 7/16 inch from where we want the starting edge of our dado to be cut. After that, all that remains is to set the adjustable end spacing of the dado jig to be exactly 3/8 inch at each end by the yellow measurement tape. This 3/8 second pass cut, plus the 5/8 wide first pass cut, will produce a perfect 1 inch wide dado cut. With the all-in-one guide at the same 3 7/16 inch from the starting edge of the first pass dado cut, if we adjusted the adjustable end gap to be 1/8 inch, instead of 3/8 inch, our second pass dado cut would produce a perfect 3/4 inch wide dado.